أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. So we continue with the discussion we started in the previous lecture. Inshallah, hopefully this will be a last lecture on the topic of Shia and Sunni relationship. There's a lot to be discussed on this topic. We have previously discussed some issues. And we just thought we should be able to discuss this whole issue from a different perspective. And there's still a lot of other areas, still a lot to be discussed in regards to this whole Sunni and Shia relationship. But we will suffice, inshallah, with today the final discussion, inshallah, yeah? So if you remember, a quick recap of what we discussed in the previous discussion so we can connect it to the discussion today. If you remember, in the previous discussion, we raised two ideas or two theories which we said when it comes to the whole topic of Shia and Sunni relationship, there are two things which I was proposing. These were two ideas which come to my mind, and I just felt as sharing them and providing some evidences on what I think. If you agree with these ideas, beautiful. If you don't, also, it's also beautiful. Yeah, we agree to disagree. So the two ideas and the two theories I proposed, the one was that I said the Muslim of today, and I explained what do I mean by Muslim of today, is living a bipolar life, okay? So when I come giving example from Dr. Yasir Qadhi's book, also you will see he's also stressing on the same thing, that the Muslim of today is living a bipolar life, okay, or a paradoxical life, a life between theory and practice. On one side, there's theory telling him something, and on the other side, practice is telling him something else. So what does he do? And this is where a Muslim needs to choose of what to be done, okay? So this reminds me only, I was listening to Dr. Yasir Qadhi. His talk was on Salahuddin Ayyubi, yeah? A legend who has been made from the Ayyubids who conquered Jerusalem. Now, I spoke about him also in the, if I'm not mistaken, in the previous discussion. I said we made him a legend, but there's some lots of issues and lots of mistakes also he had also, yeah? So, but because he did something, and he defeated the Crusaders, and that's why I believe he has been made a legend. But so many mistakes he had. So Dr. Yasir was a bit moderate or munsif and just to go into these problems of his, yeah? Now, when you feel also when he's discussing Salahuddin, on one side he feels he's a legend, he's a hero. On the other side, he looks at the mistakes this man has done and the great blunders. It's not like the blunders only, but the blunders like, you know, he gives bay'ah and he gives allegiance to the Fatimid Empire and he becomes the prime minister within the empire, and then later goes and deceives them and he overthrows the Fatimid Empire, okay? So now the result and the conclusion Dr. Yasir was discussing is that politicians live one life and the scholars live in another life altogether, okay? So this just came as a reminder. So a Muslim of today also is living that kind of life where you have theory and practice, okay? That is one thing we discussed and we gave examples, and today also we'll keep on giving examples again. The second theory which I focused on in the last discussion, and I want to focus on this a lot today, is the whole issue of the role of politicians in the division between the Shias and the Sunnis. Rather, I would say that the role of politicians in dividing the citizens, and be it Shias and Shias, be it Sunnis and Sunnis, but at the moment we are focusing on the Shia and Sunni relationship, yeah? So the politicians come and basically, so on one side we have the scholars issuing theological and jurisprudential statements which are a bit hard to accept, but these are statements which have been issued to the level of going and doing takfir of each other. but it never goes to the level of violence. So what I'm promoting is this, that the level of violence is now fueled and instigated by the politicians, yeah? So this is what I want to give as examples. Now, before I come discussing Dr. Yasir Qadhi's book and the examples I want to give from, the few examples I would just like to give from outside and then come back to our discussion on the second point, yeah? So this can be a study by itself, okay? So we start all the way in history after the death of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then the coming of the Umayyads, and then the Abbasids, and then after the Abbasids you have the Mongols who were then later converted to Islam, and then the Ayyubids, and and then the Safavids and the Ottomans. Every portion of this Khilafah within the Ummah requires a discussion and requires research as to what role did politicians play to fuel this kind of sectarianism, okay? So the example I'm giving is only from the Ottomans and the Safavid period. These were just few books I was reading, and I just thought, let me share these examples, yeah? So the first book I was reading is from Salim Deringil. Apparently, he's a Turkish author, if I'm not mistaken. He has 2-3 books on Ottoman Empire. So this was one book I got into reading. It's a beautiful book for those who like such discussions. Conversion and Apostasy in the Late Ottoman Empire. This is the name of the book. So the theory and the thesis of the book is basically, he's trying to promote that the politicians were playing a lot of role in conversion and these roles of apostasy, okay, and these rules of apostasy, rather than religion by itself. Yes, in religion we have the rules of apostasy, but when it comes to practice, you will see politicians are the ones who are playing the role and basically forced coercive conversions and all taking place, yeah? So there's so many examples he gives, and he discusses the point he wants to discuss. Now the point I'm interested in is on page number 252, where he discusses the Ottomans banning something which Islam has permitted. Okay, now again, I'm aware that some Shias and some Sunni scholars would not allow marriage between Shias and Sunnis. But the predominant opinion today is that Shias and Sunnis can get married, okay? So it's something which marriage is allowed. And then the politicians, because of their politics and rivalry, they come and prohibit something which is the Sharia has allowed. Can you see the role? I'm trying to promote my second theory, yeah? That the politicians sometimes promote this misunderstanding and this hatred within each other. So he says that the ban on Ottoman non-Muslim women marrying non-Ottoman Christians and Jews was inspired by the similar ban on the marriage of Sunni Muslim Ottoman women to Shiites from Iran. Can you see this, yeah? So the Ottomans had banned the Muslims from marrying non-Muslims, okay? You will see the whole book talks about this. But then on the same basis, it comes and now continues and says that the ban is now even on women from the Ottoman Empire are not allowed to marry men from the Shiite Safavid Empire. Can you see where it goes, the rivalry, okay? This is one example. A second example I was reading was Wali Nasr. You must have heard of him, especially after the Iran-Israel war. He is a political analyst, has a lot of information on Iranian issues, yeah? So he comes a lot on the TV also. You must have seen him also. So he has a book called The Shia Revival, where he discusses all the way from the beginning till the revival of the whole revolution and Shia revival within the revolution, yeah? So in the first chapter is where he discusses the Safavid period also, yeah? This is where Iran becomes predominantly Shia now, okay? Now, Notice on page number 54, he says that the competition took sectarian overtones as the Safavids became a Shia empire and the Ottoman emperors became the spokesmen of Sunnism. Can you see this is the problem? Okay? When Safavids now, when they go forward, they're using Shiism as their religion to do politics, and the Ottomans to do politics, they're using Sunnism. Now, none of it is useful for them. It's just they're using it for their own benefits, okay? Now, he goes further by saying the more concrete focus of the struggle was the competing assertions of dynastic and imperial Shia or Sunni power over the larger region. So they were all using religion to be able to put up a dynasty and put up their control over the region. Do you get me where it goes to, yeah? Now, what did it result into? Notice, the Ottomans and Safavids fought many wars. That means now the Shias and Sunnis as Muslims fought many wars. Why? Because the politicians have their own ambitions. Now, look at where it reaches now, okay? While the Safavids used their power to make Shiism the religion of Iran, as much by coercion as by persuasion, the Ottomans put the Shia to the sword in Anatolia. This is what the problem is now, okay? So Sunnis are now being forced to become Shias in the Safavid Empire, and the Shias are now being forced to become Sunnis in the Ottoman Empire. This is what politics does basically, okay? And this is where I'm trying to promote. When they do such things, it creates hatred within each other, and then slowly this sectarianism and this hatred starts developing into something violent, okay? A last example I would like to give, it's a book on the Safavid Empire. It's a book by an author named Rula Jurdi Abisab, okay? It's a good book about the Safavid period, where the author discusses, the name of the book is Converting Persia, Religion and Power in the Safavid Empire. You can make it up from the name itself, yeah? That how religion and power were going together to be able to put the whole rule in place, yeah? So on page 4, if you start, you'll get so many such examples in this book. It's a good read by itself of what the Safavids did also, okay? So one of the things the Safavid did was this, okay? Look at what he quotes, what the author writes. Yet mostly due to the Safavid-Ottoman political rivalry. Can you see this, okay? The statement is very clear. Because of the Safavid and Ottoman rivalry, it's not Shia-Sunni rivalry. It's the political rivalry. But where does it end to? Look at what happens now. Safavid religious servicemen encouraged and popularized the vilification of Sunnit symbols. Okay? Now, when politics gets involved with religion, this is where it goes now. So what the Safavids did, one of the very ugly things they did was this, that they started using Shiism as the religion, state religion, and they start using the symbols of the Sunni brethren. Because they were fighting with the Ottomans, they started publicly speaking, insulting the Sunni symbols and Sunni personalities. Okay? And the author gives plenty of examples as you go forward. I'm just giving one example, okay? And this, I personally feel there's a need for research, okay? I'm calling, again, lots of areas which we say there's a need for research, but really, there's a real need for research in this area, whether the riwayats of La'an, okay? So if you go to Bihar al-Anwar, for example, you have 3 volumes, Mata'in, Allahu Akbar. A person questions, where did all these riwayats come from in the Safavid period, okay? After the Safavid period, now you have 3 volumes of books insulting and speaking strange things about the personalities of the other side. And the other side also does the same. It's not like it's one-sided, okay? It's both sides now doing the same things. But a research is required whether a lot of these riwayats which have got into Bihar were due to this political issue. This is a research required by itself, okay? This la'an and all the vilification and insulting of the personalities of the other side, did it come through because of this political rivalry, or no? There were instances in the earlier sources, okay? Now this is a research by itself, okay? This was just 3 examples. The other examples also I could give, but the point I'm trying to make is this, that notice the role of politicians in dividing the Shias and Sunnis, okay? So now, come back to this book, which I want to quote. So this is Understanding Salafism by Dr. Yasir Qadhi. The example I want to give, so again, don't forget, okay, we're discussing the 2 theories I'm trying to propose. One is a Muslim is living a paradoxical and bipolar life, number 1. And number 2, the role of politicians. These are the 2 points I'm trying to prove using these 3 or 4 waves Dr. Yasir Qadhi discusses, okay? So what Dr. Yasir Qadhi is doing is, so from page number 152 onwards, it's a huge book. It's a beautiful book in the sense of you understand the evolution of Wahhabism all the way from the 2nd, 3rd century till contemporary times, yeah? So it's a good, beautiful, even the scholars and the academics have appreciated this work. Now, him being a Salafi himself previously makes it even more, and the good thing is that he is not, he has not included his biases in the book at times. Yes, sometimes you normally see this. A human is very prone to his biases, but generally it's a good book. He's tried keeping his biases aside and discuss issues without biases and discuss Salafism the way it is. So he discusses 3 waves of Salafism and then gives a possibility of a 4th wave of Wahhabism. Sorry, Wahhabism, not Salafism, yeah? So 4 waves of Wahhabism, okay? So look at the points I'm trying to make, the theory I'm promoting, and look the examples coming out from this waves, okay? So the first wave he discusses, this is on page 152. He says the first wave of Wahhabism had 3 components, okay? Please do go with me a bit and you will understand the point I'm trying to make. One was, the first component of this wave was this, that they had a special understanding of their own about uluhiyyah, okay, of the lordship of Allah. And thus, this unique understanding of their own led them to now feel that everybody else is doing shirk now. Okay, this is what we're seeing in Wahhabism. Okay, that every Muslim is a mushrik. And I'm not saying it. I'll quote the quotations of Ibn Wahhab also. Okay, so everybody else is a kafir and a mushrik, yeah, because of their unique understanding of uluhiyyah and lordship of Allah. This was the first component. That led to a second component of mass takfir now. By mass takfir we mean all the Muslims become non-Muslims, mushrik and kafir. Okay, we'll quote the statement. Rather, Muhammad ibn Wahhab goes further by saying that those who don't do takfir of those who we call kafir are also kafir. This is very strange. Okay, that means who we call kafir, if you don't call them kafir also, you also kafir also. This is where Muslims go to. Okay, now that resulted into third point, and this is where I come and say the role of politics now. Because they had issues with the Ottomans and then with the Shias also, but mainly with the Ottomans, they wanted to fight the Ottomans and get control over the Hijaz area, over the Saudi area, what they call today. Thus, they now legalized military wars and battles against Muslims. Do you get me? So these are the three components of the first wave of Wahhabism. Shirk, calling everybody shirk, mushriks. Okay. Second is doing mass takfir, and those who don't do takfir are also kafir. And third, legalizing wars and battles with the fellow Muslims. Why? Because they wanted power. I hope you're getting me, okay? The role of politics. Notice they're doing takfir because they want to reach to their political aim. And the point will be made clear as we go to the second and third wave of Wahhabism. You will see the way they melt down these understandings, okay? Now, to just read you one statement. So on page number 134, okay, Dr. Yasir Qadhi on page number 135 also, he quotes the mass takfir Ibn Wahhab was doing, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who was the founder of Wahhabism. Notice he writes in his letter, he says that know that polytheism, shirk, is what has filled the earth. That means everybody on the earth is mushrik except us. And people call it belief in righteous persons, So, people who believe in the saints and this awliya, Allah and all whatnot, venerate saints, this is all shirk. Until date we see that. The effects are seen till date, that they call anybody who goes to the shrines and all, they call them grave worshippers and all whatnot. This started all the way from the first wave of Wahhabism. Everybody was considered a kafir and mass takfir happened. Okay, so this is not us saying it. This is Ibn Abdul Wahhab himself saying it. Later, his followers deny it, but it's there in his books also. Now, look at the repercussions and the consequences of this first wave now. Okay, this is where when you politicize this whole issue in religion, this is what happens now. Look at the consequences. Consequence number one, the Sunnis, rather the Wahhabis, come and include wala and bara'a, so what we call tawalla and tabarra. We previously also discussed in the previous discussion. What we call tawalla and tabarra, they call wala and bara'a. So they started including it as part of their fundamentals. Do you get me? So now you are going to love and help the people of God and distance and disassociate from the enemies of God. Who are the people of God? Themselves. Who are the enemies of God? Everybody they consider the enemies. Can you see how politics gets involved in religion also? This is what I'm trying to say, that the whole Muslim world becomes mushrik suddenly and kafir. Okay? This is including Shias who are facing the brunt till today now. Okay, the effects of Wahhabi's fatwas are still seen on the Shias till today, because they are trying to venerate Ibn Wahhab from saying no, he didn't say anything against the Sunnis, but the Shias, they still are on the same. Why? Because the political rivalry is still going on till date. So now, to include a whole issue within a faith and make it a fundamental of faith just because of politics, okay? Number one. Number two, look at where it goes now. Now this is something the Wahhabis keep on criticizing other Muslims, especially Shias, that they are the ones who are respecting and venerating and honoring the awliya, Allah and the saints. They are doing the same, very strangely, but they are blaming the others, okay? So, they start idolizing and sanctifying the whole image of, they start sanctifying and idolizing Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Okay? How do they do so? Look at what do they do. Okay? So this is on page number 138. If you can refer to it, you can check it out. So we say that one of the components of the first wave was fighting battles against the Muslims. Now, whenever you want to fight, you have to have justification, You have to justify. Now, today, countries would justify patriotism and nationalism and all whatnot. At that time, religion had to play its role to be able to sanctify Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. So what does he do and what do his followers do? They start now sanctifying Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab now. What do they do with him? So for example, Dr. Yasir Qadhi says they started calling his wars and his battles with fellow Muslims as ghazawat. Okay? Ghazawat is a terminology used for the Holy Prophet ﷺ's battles and military wars. Now notice, he's trying to take that terminology and put it on himself. Why? Because you need to sanctify yourself. You need to be able to say this is a very holy war which we are fighting. Okay? Or for example, on page number 139, he compares himself with the first caliph. Okay, now personally I have a lot of issues with this whole Ridda war, the war which the first caliph took after he took up Khilafah, with those people who refused to give zakat and all whatnot. Personally, I believe there's a lot of research required there. Again, because of the sanctifying of personalities, we cannot discuss a lot of issues. Yeah, but I believe there's a lot of research required out there. But what I'm interested in, I'm quoting this because Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab compares himself and somehow sees himself as what the first caliph did. Because he fought those people who refused to pay zakat, he also is doing the same with the Muslims also. Okay? Now, what happens, this will happen in the third wave. They start exonerating and they start absolving and they start freeing Ibn Wahhab from all the image which has been created around him. Okay? So when we come to the third wave, you'll notice we will see this, that they start now exonerating and absolving his image by now using the term Salafism. Okay? So this term Salafism is used in the third wave. That's in 1930s. It's a very recent terminology, not there present before that. It was not used in the first wave, it was not used in the second wave. Okay? But why was it used? Because you want to exonerate and absolve the image of Ibn Wahhab, because he was a fanatic. Okay? And this is not a word I'm using. Dr. Yasir is also using. I'll come and show you. Okay? Because of his fanaticism, now you want to stay in the world. As we come further, we'll explain that. You have to now say that no, he wasn't believing in all what he was believing in it. Okay? So now, this was consequence number 2. Consequence number 3 was the fights within the Muslims now. Okay? Because of this expansionist understanding, because of wanting to take hold of Najd and then whole Hijaz, notice the amount of fighting which happened between Muslims. Okay? This is where I come and say the role of politics. It's Muslims against Muslims. And then it becomes worse when it involves Shias and Sunnis. Yeah? So the fight started all the way from 1744 till 1932 when Saudi Arabia was established. Almost how many? 2 centuries of fighting between Muslims. Do you get me where it reaches to? Yeah? Now, so now it doesn't stop there. So Ibn Wahhab starts fighting, and then his sons also join the fighting. In 1802, so early 19th century, they attack. The Wahhabis also attack. They attack Karbala also. Again, Karbala being so according to some understanding, Iraq was not the higher population was not of Shias. So according to one article I was reading, in the 19th century there were 15% Shias in Iraq. Okay? Even if we accept that Shias were majority or minority, but they start attacking Iraq now, Karbala now. Okay? Can you see where it goes now? And this creates unnecessary rivalry between Shias and Sunnis. We saw this when the bombing happened in Samarra. Those takfiris came and bombed Samarra. It was the beauty of the Maraja, especially Ayatollah Sistani with his far-sightedness. He came and quashed these Sunni-Shia sectarianism. Otherwise, this would have exploded. This is exactly what the politicians wanted. Okay? This is exactly what the Wahhabis also did in 1802 also. They start attacking. Though Karbala at that time, Iraq was under the Ottomans. And they attacked Iraq because of the Ottomans. Okay? So now, they attack Iraq in Karbala and they commit a mass slaughter. Okay? This is where it reaches. Politics. Okay? This is on page 160 if you can refer to. Now, strangely, now you see slowly things starting to change now. Slowly now they start joining in alliance and they start cooperating with the British now to be able to defeat the Ottomans. Now suddenly where did the rule go all of a sudden? That all the Muslims are mushriks. Suddenly those who are non-Muslims are now becoming your allies now. Can you see where politics and religion starts playing role now? And this is where the theory and practice come and collide now. On one side, you want to take over Hijaz and Saudi. You are seeing the Ottomans are not to be defeated. And thus now you take help of who? Not Muslims, non-Muslims. The Muslims you consider kafir and mushriks. Now you come and use the non-Muslims to be able to conquer and defeat the Ottomans. Okay? Now, and thus, they did takfir of the whole Ottoman, of all the Ottomans also. Can you see again politics playing the role, okay? All what for what? Because they want to take Hijaz. So Dr. Yasir Qadhi on page 135 and 6, he says that the claim that the majority of Muslims of Arabia and the Ottoman Empire at that time had abandoned Islam is what allowed the early Saudi Wahhabi state to wage what it is considered a holy war against them. Now can you see how a holy war is taken? Okay? How do you stage a holy war? By consider others as kafir, and then you start perpetrating violence. Okay? So either yourself or through proxies. Okay? This was wave number 1. So wave 1 of Wahhabism, we saw the 3 components. It's basically fighting and doing takfir. Now, in the second wave is where now you see the dispute between theory and practice now. It's becoming very clear now that once they start getting the power now, okay? Once the Saudi state is established in 1932, now especially in 1938, sorry, in 1938, oil is discovered in Saudi Arabia. Now when oil comes, those come also, yeah? Those who want to get oil also come with them. So the Americans were given now access to the oil fields in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia needed expatriates, it needed foreigners, why? Because now it's going to build a state now. So it needs expertise, okay? It needs foreign investments. It needs all these things. How can it survive alone in its own bubble, calling everybody kafir and mushrik and all whatnot? Now, in the first wave, everybody was kafir, everybody was mushrik. Suddenly, in the second wave, the same Muslims who are kafir and were mushriks now are allowed to enter Masjid al-Haram to perform Umrah and Hajj now. This is the irony. Can you see now? This is the difference between and the conflict between the theory and practice. In theory, you say these are all kafir and mushriks. If they're all mushriks are not allowed to enter Kaaba, okay, and the holy vicinity. Again, other reasons are given, but normally they're not allowed to enter the Masjid al-Haram vicinity. Now, how do you allow them then? Do you get me? This is what's happening in the second wave now. A conflict is becoming very clear. Now you need to stay practically, and you have your theory with you. Okay? So now, Muslims are being allowed, scholars are being allowed, they come for conferences, investments is coming in, expatriates are coming in with their expertise and all whatnot. Okay? Now, suddenly, so you notice the whole issue of wala and bara'a, tawalla and tabarra, became fundamental of their religion in the first wave. So now what do they do with it? Okay? So now they changed the whole meaning of wala and bara'a in the second wave. Okay? So look at page number 166. Allahu Akbar. A second wave of Wahhabism emerged, okay? And the prominent political interpretations of al-wala wal-bara'a in lieu of a more socially acceptable presentation, okay? So now you want to socially exist. What do? You come up with a new understanding of al-wala and bara'a, okay? What is that now? Okay? Thus, in this new trend, treatises and commercial transactions with infidel states were to be permitted. But one was obligated to disassociate from all the polytheists in one's heart. Can you see now what's happening now? Okay? Now, so the new meaning came out altogether. Okay? The new meaning came out in terms of what? In terms of now, wala and bara'a is not to go and fight now. So the fighting period which helped them, so as long as they needed the fight, they gave fatwas against fighting. Now they don't need fighting anymore. So now wala and bara'a is what now? It's in the heart now. You don't come and say it out. Yes, you disassociate from them, but disassociate in the heart. Distance from the infidels and the mushriks and the kafir from the heart. Not go and fight them militarily. Do you see how things are changing also? Politics is getting involved, and practice and theory is. So now they gave a new meaning altogether to wala'a and bara'a. Okay? So what they did was now, instead of the rulers being told to practice wala'a and bara'a, they turned to the people and said, you are the ones who are supposed to practice wala'a and bara'a. Okay? Tawalla and tabarra will be done by you, not the rulers. So rulers are now being exonerated. Okay? They're being absolved of their duties and do whatever they want. Here now the people are now being told, the followers are being told, you are to do bara'a and wala'a in your heart. How do you do so? And this is where the whole fatwas, which is still date haunting us, have come together. Okay? And this is where I say that the Wahhabis in the political period came and gave these fatwas. Till day it's haunting us. Every Mawlid we fight. Every Christmas we fight. Every birthday we fight. Okay? Why? Because of these strange fatwas which have come from the other side. Okay? Now, I don't want to say that, okay, somebody would say, oh, Christmas originally was like that. Originally was something else. Today, Christmas is something else today. Okay? Yes. If something wrong is being done, anti-Sharia is being done, yes, then you stay away from these festivals and all whatnot. But if nothing is happening, nothing wrong is happening, all because of these Wahhabi understanding. Okay, notice now. So what happened now? So now wala'a and bara'a needs to be done in this way. Dress code needs to change now. So you don't need to wear the way the infidels wear. Number one. And this is where you see this whole fighting over until the third wave. Yeah, now the new modern movement is something else. But until the third wave of Wahhabism, it was all fighting about should the clothes be cut from down and all whatnot. This becomes a discussion within the Muslims by itself. Okay? Celebration of any non-religious festival, such as birthdays and commemorative days. Okay? So you want to celebrate birthday? Problem, not allowed. Commemorate something? Not allowed. Again, this is where Shia and Sunni issue comes in. And this is where politics come in. And this is what I'm trying to say, that every Muharram comes in, these people want to pull us to these kind of discussions, okay? Traveling to foreign lands, not allowed unless out of necessity, okay? These are the rules they started giving in the second wave of Wahhabism. Now, strangely, now they needed technology and evolution in the innovation coming from the West now. So what do? So Dr. Yasir says that the second wave quietly isolated from the public discourse the original fatwas that declared such technology to be the handiwork of the devil and the manifestations of magic. Do you get me? So in the first wave, any technology, any innovation coming from the West was considered the work of devil, okay, and was considered magic. Suddenly now, saying no, we need this all. So what do? They started slowly isolating themselves from this fatwa. And we keep on fighting over it, strangely. Can you see this? The role of politicians, where it goes to, okay? So now, this was the second wave, okay? So, in the second wave, the crux is this, that we will do wala'a and bara'a, but with the heart and not physically. And thus, Muslims are Muslims by name, but we will not fight them. We don't consider them Muslims, but yes, by name they're Muslims. Do you get me? Okay, this is the second wave of Wahhabism. The third wave of Wahhabism is interesting. Allahu Akbar. So this is on page number 175. So Dr. Yasir now says, the main problem with the second wave was the clear internal contradiction between the theory and its practice. This is something we discussed, yeah, in the second wave. In the third wave now, okay, if indeed non-Wahhabi sects like Sufis and Shia allowed the worship of other than God, and if abandoning the Sharia in judgment meant abandoning the religion, then on what basis could such people who claim to be Muslims not be treated as murtads or apostates? Okay, now this is a contradiction coming in now. What do you do in the third stage now? You want to live a life of modernity. You want to live with everybody. Okay, on one side you are saying everybody is kafir and that's murtad, and they're worshipping apart, they're worshipping entity apart from God. Thus, everybody is kafir and mushrik. Okay? So now he goes on further saying that first wave Wahhabism taught. The second wave had tempered the original teachings in action. It had not tempered those teachings in thought. Now, another conundrum faced by this generation was the history of its origins, particularly the seemingly blatant fanaticism of its founder. So in the third wave of Wahhabism now, the two things happening now. Okay? So now, Wahhabism has its root in fanaticism. Okay, Muhammad ibn Wahhab, as we quoted, had strangely fanatic ideas, fighting the Muslims and all whatnot. But now you want to live in the world. Again, live with Muslims also. So what do you do now? So in the third wave now, they come up with a whole new component, and that is to exonerate the image of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Can you see this? Okay? So to save the movement, a complete overhaul was required. You have to change the whole image of Wahhabism if you want to survive in the modern world. So theory and practice. Can you see this? Okay? And thus there was a clear need to rehabilitate the image of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. I hope you're getting me where I'm trying to go to, okay? And thus, it was the first time he was now heralded and called as a Salafi Imam. Now Wahhabism is being taken out and is now being called a Salafi Imam. I hope you're getting me where it's going to, yeah? That this is where politics comes and plays its role, yeah? Now, the key component of this third wave of Wahhabism was the whole issue of al-udhr bil-jahl. Okay, so this is a terminology used in fiqh and usul, okay, in jurisprudential and legal theory. Now, we don't want to get into that discussion, but it's a whole theory of excusing Muslim out of ignorance. So this became a whole component of the third wave, okay? So now you will consider Muslims based on giving them the udhr and the excuse of ignorance. Meaning, yes, we believe that they are polytheists, we believe they are mushriks, but because they themselves don't know that they are mushriks and kafir, thus we will give them the excuse of being a Muslim. Can you see from theory too? So the first wave being a militant Islam, to the whole now starting to give excuse and starting to now rehabilitate the whole image of Ibn Wahhab. Okay, so look at what Dr. Yasir Qadhi says. Okay, he says that so the Muslims, they are committing actions that could potentially lead to apostasy, but because it was assumed that such Muslims were ignorant of the Islamic belief on monotheism, they should be excused as a rule. Do you see now? Now it didn't stop here. Then they back projected this interpretation on Ibn Wahhab himself. Can you see what's happening? Okay? So this is the third wave of Wahhabism. And then finally, Dr. Yasir discusses the possible fourth wave of Wahhabism, especially with the coming of the current regime in Saudi Arabia with Mohammed bin Salman. So he says that what's happening in the current wave, the possibility now is this, that they've abandoned Wahhabism, they came to Salafism. Now in the fourth wave, the possibility is now them leaving Salafism and going towards modernism. And we're seeing that, yeah? We're seeing the effects of Salafism and the effects of modernity in the current Saudi Arabia, yeah? With the music festivals and all what's happening in that part of the world, okay? To the level that modernity now is leading them to even establish ties with Israel now, the genocidal regime, but they're establishing under the name of Abraham Accords. Everything is happening. Now, two components, and I finish my discussion, two components of this fourth wave. One is unconditional obedience and loyalty to the ruler. Now, my Sunni brothers need to sort these riwayats. There are plenty of riwayats in their hadith corpus which says that you have to obey the ruler even if he is an oppressor. These are riwayats which are there in their books, okay? If the hadith books say so, and then a ruler comes and misuses that, okay, rather uses it, the scholars need to come and explain those riwayats. Are they really from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or no, the Umayyads made up those riwayats? And then how did they pop into the famous Sahihain and all whatnot? Okay, the Sunnis need to come and explain all that. Okay, but the fourth wave now, the main component of this fourth wave became what? Unconditional obedience and loyalty to the rulers. So now scholars are even supposed to give unconditional loyalty to and that's why you will notice that those who oppose the rulers now, they are being taken behind bars now. Only those who do tawbah are being taken out, and then they will give fatwas against what they. So now legalization of, I don't know, music and all whatnot is coming out from the kingdom now. Okay, you will see scholars coming in. So you had Sudais, the Imam of Mecca, He comes and even makes the statement that don't help the Palestinian cause and follow what the ruler says. Because if you don't follow what the ruler says, then you're causing fitna. Can you see where and where it reaches? Okay? And this is, I'm trying to show you from theory to practice altogether. Okay? So this is component number one, that unconditional loyalty to the ruler. Whatever the ruler says, even if it's anti-Sharia things, you will obey. And this is what the kingdom is going in that direction. Now, this was there in the third wave. I'm not saying that it wasn't there. In the third wave, this component was there, but it was done very privately. In the fourth wave now, it's being announced publicly that we will now give our unconditional loyalty publicly. That is number one. And number two, we are going to publicly denounce all those groups which call themselves as Islamic awakening groups. Okay? So starting from within also. So you have the Sahwa group, which Dr. Yasir also discusses. The Sahwa group is a group within the Saudi itself, which emerged, again, which I don't want to get into, after King Fahd, okay, and the Gulf War, and the alliance with the Americans and all, and that's where it emerged, okay? So the Sahwa movement scholars are all inside bars. Then you notice those movements, again, now I have issues with some of the Islamic movements and all whatnot. So I'm not saying anything positive or negative about them. I'm just stating the facts here, okay? I'm just mentioning the facts. I'm not getting into discussing these groups. Rather, I have issues, some of them to be discussed about these groups also, okay? Especially, for example, you take some of these groups which claim initially to be Islamic, and then later they start doing things and all whatnot. So there's a lot to be discussed out there, okay? But what I'm trying to say is I'm just stating facts out here, okay? So all those groups which are stating anything to do with resistance and awakening and all whatnot, you will publicly condemn them, okay? And this is where the public condemnation of Muslim Brotherhood now is going on in Saudi now, okay? Hamas is being publicly condemned. Okay, you're asked now, support your Palestinian brothers. Don't support Hamas. Okay, no problem. At least support that thing. No, they equate it straight away to, okay, why? Because the rulers now want to sign Abraham Accords and sign peace agreements with Israel, and thus whatever the rulers say, we will follow it. And that's why if you search also, Dr. Yasir also discusses this. This is called madkhalism. Another terminology used for the fourth wave is called madkhalism. Okay? Madkhalis are those, if you saw in between, in the war of especially the Israel-Iran war. Okay? In the Israel-Iran war, you notice that there were these madkhali scholars coming and saying, no, we will support Israel and not even support Iran. But don't support Iran, okay, but support Israel? Okay, this is where it reaches. Why? Because the rulers want it to be done. Okay, and thus you will see scholars coming out from UAE and Saudi. You come and see such statements coming out from them. Okay, so these were the two components of the fourth wave. Okay, publicly showing your loyalty and publicly denouncing those movements which call for Islamic awakening and all whatnot. Okay, now we're seeing this. Okay, we're seeing this. For those of you who want to see these waves again, see it in Syria. Okay, so the first wave of Jolani, we saw that. Now he calls himself Ahmad al-Shara. Okay, so the first wave of that fanatic Jolani. Again, within that first wave also, he has periods also. But that first wave of Jolani is over. Now we have the second wave of Jolani, where he's trying to be absolved from what he has done. And thus wearing a coat and, the same things which were forbidden for them. These were foreign clothes for them. And it was bid'ah to wear all these things. Now suddenly the same man is now wearing okay, coat and tie and all whatnot, okay? And so many different things now he's doing just because of the different waves. You will see similar things happening in Syria also. So in conclusion, the point I was trying to make was this. When it comes to the whole Shia-Sunni relationship, yes, the Muslim is living in a bipolar life between theory and practice, but this doesn't lead to violence, okay? What leads to violence are the politicians, and thus I'm saying, if we don't wake up, the way the politicians are using us, is I gave some fatwas, I showed you, yeah? The way the politicians are using us. When they wanted, celebrations are allowed. When they don't want, celebrations are not allowed. Wala and bara'a is being given a whole new meaning altogether. The politicians are doing what they want, just playing with us. If we don't wake up, then we Muslims will be remaining in the state we are till the end of times, okay? Let's pray to Allah to be able to give us the tawfiq, to be able to unite our hearts, especially the Shias and the Shias, Sunnis and the Sunnis, and then the larger Muslim Ummah, to be able to unite in this month of Rajab, inshallah. And Allah help the oppressed throughout the world, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.